Right now, someone with half your talent, half your education, and far fewer opportunities is living the life you dream of. Why? Because they started and you haven't yet. Ladies and gentlemen, right now, someone far less qualified than you is already succeeding, not because they're smarter, richer, or luckier, but because they decided to begin. That is the difference. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to hand you the blueprint that can take you from standing still to unshakable momentum. If you've ever felt stuck, if you've ever asked, why not me? This is your answer. Stay with me because the key to the success you crave starts right here, right now. This principle is the cornerstone of every extraordinary achievement in human history. Without a clear, unwavering target, the energy of your mind disperses like light diffused through fog. But when your purpose is definite, when it is carved in your mind with the force of obsession, it acts like a magnifying glass focusing sunlight into fire. A person with a definite purpose wakes up with direction, acts with conviction, and endures hardship with meaning. They are not wandering through life hoping things will improve. They are steering it deliberately like a captain navigating through storm and sea toward a predetermined port. Think of the story of Thomas Edison. While many remember him for the invention of the light bulb, few appreciate the depth of his definiteness of purpose. He wasn't merely experimenting with electricity. He was determined to create a practical, long-lasting source of light. That was his purpose, and every day he moved in alignment with that goal. Over 10,000 failed experiments did not deter him because his mind was locked onto the target. Each failure was not a discouragement, but a clarification, a process of elimination in the service of his mission. Had Edison approached invention with vague intentions or scattered interests, the light bulb as we know it might not exist. His definiteness of purpose gave him the strength to endure failure after failure without losing faith or momentum. In contrast, consider the thousands, perhaps millions, who dabble in ideas but commit to none. They start one thing, abandon it when it gets tough, and chase the next shiny opportunity. Their efforts never bear fruit, not because they lack intelligence or talent, but because they lack a definite chief aim. Imagine planting a seed, watering it for a week, then digging it up to plant another. The soil never has time to yield results. Success demands that you pick your seed and stay with it, nourish it, defend it, protect it against the storms of doubt until it blooms. That seed is your purpose. Without it, your energy is divided, your focus is fractured, and your willpower drains under the weight of indecision. Definiteness of purpose is not just about setting a goal, it is about committing your life to it. It means saying no to distractions, abandoning the false comfort of options, and locking your mind onto one dominating desire with such intensity that the world begins to bend in response to your will. Before any plan is drawn, before any action is taken, before a single brick of success is laid, there must be desire. Not a passing wish, not a mild preference, but a deep, consuming, all-encompassing need to bring something into existence. It is desire that fuels the imagination, compels the body into motion, and keeps the mind anchored when every external force tempts you to quit. Without desire, effort is mechanical and short-lived. With it, effort becomes a compulsion. True desire transforms the impossible into the inevitable, not because circumstances become easier, but because your will becomes unbreakable. You no longer try to achieve, you are driven to achieve, pulled forward by a vision that refuses to let go of you. Consider the story of a young man who once approached Socrates and asked, "Master, how can I gain wisdom?" Socrates led the man to a river, then without warning held his head under water. The man struggled, kicked, panicked. Finally, Socrates pulled him up. Gasping for air, the man was furious. Socrates looked at him calmly and said, "When you want wisdom as badly as you wanted that breath, you shall have it." That is desire. When your need for success becomes as urgent as the need for oxygen, when your dream dominates your thoughts more than comfort, entertainment, or sleep, you have touched the level of desire that precedes great achievement. It is not comfortable. It is not always rational, but it is the raw power that has moved the world forward, one determined soul at a time. Desire was the driving force behind every invention, every movement, every fortune built from the dust of obscurity. Think of Oprah Winfrey, born into poverty, abused as a child, told repeatedly that she would never amount to anything. What separated her from the millions who endured similar struggles was not luck, it was an unwavering desire to rise above her circumstances. That desire led her to seize opportunities, to endure rejection, to evolve constantly until the world had no choice but to recognize her. Her achievements are many, but they all rest on the foundation of a desire that refused to die, even when life gave her every reason to surrender. Desire also explains why two people, given the same resources, education, and environment, can achieve wildly different outcomes. One coasts, the other climbs. One waits for motivation, the other acts from internal urgency. The achiever is not necessarily more gifted, but they are more hungry. They have tapped into something deeper than convenience or preference. Their desire becomes a force of nature, pulling in people, resources, ideas, and energy, all in service of a burning vision. It becomes the emotional blueprint for everything that follows. The thoughts they allow, the risks they take, the effort they give, and the sacrifices they make. Dreams, by their very nature, are intangible. They are mental images, silent whispers of possibility. They live in the realm of imagination without shape or weight until they are anchored by belief. Faith is the bridge between what you see in your mind and what you hold in your hands. It is the internal force that transforms fantasy into blueprints and blueprints into action. When a person believes in themselves not in vague self-esteem, but in absolute conviction, they begin to behave differently. They begin to plan with purpose, speak with certainty, walk with a quiet resolve that others can feel. Faith causes the mind to search for solutions instead of excuses. It activates courage, creativity, and endurance traits that lie dormant in those who doubt. Faith does not guarantee ease, but it makes effort possible. It allows you to begin before you see the full staircase, to invest in a future only you can currently see, and to work as if your outcome is already written, even when the world provides no evidence. A clear example of this can be found in the story of Henry Ford. In the early 1900s, the automobile was considered a toy for the rich, unreliable, expensive, and inaccessible to the average person. Ford had a dream to build a car so affordable that the common man could own it. But what separated Ford from countless other dreamers was his unwavering faith in that vision. He faced ridicule, financial setbacks, and technical failures. No one believed it could be done. Factories balked at his designs, engineers quit, and investors pulled out. But Ford's belief in himself and in his idea never wavered. That belief led him to develop the assembly line, a revolutionary system that slashed production costs and redefined industrial manufacturing. It wasn't simply mechanics that changed the world, it was faith translated into action. Because he believed, he planned. Because he planned, he built. Because he built, he transformed an entire era. This kind of self-faith is not arrogance, nor is it blind optimism. It is a decision, a mental posture that says, I will figure it out even if I don't know how yet. It is the ability to stand alone in the silence when applause has not yet come and keep going. It is what allows an artist to paint a masterpiece no one has asked for, a writer to pen a book no publisher has signed, an entrepreneur to design a product no one has seen. It is faith that takes vague hopes and molds them into structured goals. Without faith, the dream remains a wish. With faith, the dream becomes a mission. It becomes something that is pursued with strategy instead of passivity. You begin to ask, how will I make this happen instead of can I? And that shift from uncertainty to determination is the birthplace of every serious plan ever laid by a person who refused to let doubt cancel their destiny. No amount of planning, wishing, or visualizing can replace the necessity of action. You may possess a vision so vivid it keeps you awake at night, a desire so intense it feels like fire in your chest, and faith so strong it moves your emotions. But until you move your feet, nothing in your world will change. Action is the great translator. It takes what lives in your mind and gives it form in the physical world. It is the conversion point where intention becomes progress. Every great success story is written not with ink, but with movement, daily, deliberate, disciplined movement. Ideas without execution are just mental decorations. Action, even if imperfect, propels you forward, while inaction is a silent thief, stealing time, energy, and potential without you even noticing. And the longer you wait, the stronger your doubts become, the colder your passion grows, and the more distant your dreams seem. Take the example of J.K. Rowling. She didn't start as a celebrated author. She was a single mother living on welfare, scribbling her ideas in cafes between job interviews and parenting. The idea for Harry Potter came to her on a delayed train, but had she done nothing with it, the story would have remained a fleeting thought, a daydream. Instead, she acted. She began writing. Not when conditions were perfect, not when her finances were in order, and certainly not when she felt secure, but now in the midst of uncertainty. She wrote in bits and pieces, often in chaos, but always moving forward. Her manuscript was rejected by multiple publishers, 12 of them, but because she had acted, she had something to submit, something to improve, something to believe in, and eventually her effort met its moment. Millions today read her books, but few understand the depth of action it required to birth them. Acting now does not mean recklessness, it means beginning. It means choosing to make progress, however small, rather than waiting for some mythical moment of readiness. The truth is, readiness is a mirage. You do not become prepared and then act. You become prepared by acting. The person you want to be is not formed through thinking alone, but through experience, through effort, through failure and adaptation. Action generates feedback. It sharpens your vision, teaches you the terrain, and reveals the next step. It awakens resources you didn't know you had. One phone call, one conversation, 1 hour of focused work can initiate momentum that transforms your entire path. Yet most people hesitate, paralyzed by perfectionism or fear, not realizing that movement itself is what dispels those very fears. In the realm of dreams, everyone is equal. But in the world of action, only the movers, the doers, the starters will see results. The world does not reward thought alone. It rewards the courage to move. It is not talent, luck, or even intelligence that most often determines who rises and who falls. It is the ability to keep going when others stop. Persistence is the silent force that carries you through frustration, rejection, failure, and fatigue. It is what keeps a person building long after the applause has faded, what keeps the entrepreneur refining their idea after every no, what drives the athlete to train when no one is watching. Many begin with enthusiasm, full of energy and bold declarations. But only those who persist, those who continue to act with discipline and purpose, even when the process becomes dull, when the results are slow, or when failure seems imminent, ever reach the summit they set out to conquer. Most people quit not because their dream was impossible, but because their patience was too short. They expected quick returns, easy victories, smooth roads. But success is often buried under layers of difficulty, and only those who dig deep enough find it. Look at the story of Colonel Harlan Sanders, the man behind Kentucky Fried Chicken. He was 65 years old, broke, and traveling from restaurant to restaurant with a recipe for fried chicken. Over 1,000 restaurants turned him down. Most would have stopped after the first few rejections, chalked it up to bad luck or bad timing. But not Sanders. He believed in what he had, and he persisted with relentless determination. After years of hearing no, he finally got a yes, and that yes turned into a global franchise that made him a millionaire in his later years. His story is not remarkable because of the recipe. Many people can fry chicken. His story is powerful because he kept showing up, kept offering, kept trying long after any reasonable person would have given up. He didn't stop at discomfort. He moved through it. Persistence means continuing when the novelty wears off. It means you show up not just when you feel inspired, but when you feel discouraged. It means embracing the process without demanding instant payoff. This is why persistence is so rare, because it demands emotional endurance. It's not enough to start strong, you must finish strong. Most dreams don't fail from a lack of possibility, they die from lack of patience and resolve. Every person who has reached a place of real success can point to a period of darkness, a stretch of time when the results were invisible, when the doubts were loudest, when walking away would have been easier. But they stayed, they worked, they endured, and slowly the tide turned, momentum returned, doors opened, the world finally caught up to what they had believed all along. Persistence is not just a virtue, it is the grindstone that sharpens potential into reality. No one climbs to the peak of success entirely alone. While individual effort is critical, the environment you place yourself in, especially the people you allow into your mental space, either accelerates your growth or quietly sabotages it. The right minds are not merely positive thinkers or cheerleaders. They are individuals who challenge your ideas, elevate your standards, hold you accountable, and reflect a higher vision of what's possible. When you surround yourself with those who are driven, focused, and disciplined, their energy begins to influence your own. Your conversations shift. Your priorities shift. You begin to normalize ambition instead of mediocrity, resilience instead of excuses. Just as proximity to fire makes you warmer, proximity to high-performing, purpose-driven people ignites your own potential. Success becomes contagious not through imitation, but through alignment. You begin to see more, believe more, and do more because your circle demands it. A powerful example of this is found in the early days of the tech revolution in a small, now legendary group of individuals who gathered in a California garage. Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and a handful of others. They were not alone in their technical knowledge. Thousands of engineers had similar skills, but what made them different was the intensity of their collaboration and the standard they set for one another. Jobs was relentless in vision, Wozniak was brilliant in design, and their synergy produced something far greater than either could have achieved alone. They challenged each other, argued, pushed boundaries, and refused to settle for average. Their partnership wasn't always comfortable, but it was electric. That small group bound by a shared mission and high expectations sparked one of the most influential companies in history. Had either of them surrounded themselves with small thinkers or yes men, the fire would have dimmed before it ever reached the market. Conversely, being around the wrong minds drains your drive. People who doubt, criticize, or live in fear do not just affect your mood, they plant seeds of hesitation. They convince you to shrink your goals to fit their comfort zones. Their questions aren't meant to understand, but to discourage. Slowly, without realizing it, you begin to second-guess yourself, delay your actions, and explain away your own ambition. That is the subtle danger of environment. It doesn't shout, it whispers. And those whispers become inner dialogue. But when your circle is filled with minds that are forward-moving, solution-focused, and growth-obsessed, the whispers become rallying cries. You start thinking in terms of how can I instead of what if I fail. Your goals become collective missions and your pace quickens not out of pressure but out of inspiration. You're no longer carrying your vision alone. You're walking alongside others who expect you to rise, and that expectation becomes a powerful force. Friends, success doesn't come to those who wait. It comes to those who start. Today is your day. Draw the line in the sand. Make the decision. Stoke the fire, move with purpose, and let this be the moment you say, I will no longer wait for success, I will create it. Because everything you want is waiting right where your comfort ends.